Okay. When you are receiving a referral, contacting or scheduling clients, this is our training regarding that. The first thing you will be receiving from our office once you have informally accepted a client is this referral form. So this will include the client's name, usually their insurance number, and their date of birth, which can also be found on their CarePaths account. You'll also see the address and phone number where they are currently residing, especially if it's a child. And then you have two sections here, one for parent and guardian information and one for foster parent information. So in this case, the parent or guardian actually is the Department of Family Services. And so that caseworker has included their information there. And the note is that they are formal wards of the court. So as we have discussed, if you have a child who is residing in foster care, their guardian at that time is their DFS caseworker. Also, you're seeing here foster parent information. So typically that's going to be where the child is living, and that should match the address that you would see in this area up here. And the bottom is very important, other information like other services that are being referred for this client or family. So in this case, they're asking for that initial mental health assessment, and then they are recommending individual and family therapy. So going into this case, it's important for you to know, what are your responsibilities? Are you doing the assessment? Is someone else doing the assessment? And are you the individual therapist or are you the family therapist? Telehealth. So there's lots of options for telehealth, but this referral source says that no, this client needs to have in-person therapy in their home. So that's not going to be an option for this client. They are not currently receiving any other services, and they have not had any other services this calendar year. The reason why that is important is number one, for coordination of care, or number two, so that we can know if we need a PAR or an authorization for units, because if they have already had, let's say, therapy for 3 or 4 months so far during this calendar year, then we might be questioning if they even have any units left available, depending on what kind of insurance that they have. The reason for referrals sometimes will be a very long paragraph, sometimes will be a very short statement or sentence. In this case, we get a little bit of information about some children who have been in foster care for quite some time. They've been in multiple different placements. They have systemic addiction, neglect, and other mental health concerns, and they are in a disrupted placement, and now there's lots of things going on. Maybe you would assume about attachment or other symptomology based just on this little paragraph. So the caseworker's information when you want to reach them, as we'll discuss next, is below, where their name, their phone number, and their email address are written. So first thing you're going to be doing is contacting that client, and that might be actually their guardian, and we want to do that within 24 hours of receiving that email with that PDF referral form. So we're trying to call first. Once you have rapport established with a client, then it becomes a little bit more easy to say, okay, I'm going to send them a text message, maybe to schedule, but up front, we like to use a phone call. If you're having trouble scheduling, or a family seems very resistant, or the caregiver's like, I don't even know who you are, why are you calling me? Nobody told me about you. Don't hesitate to reach out to the caseworker. In some cases, the caseworker will call them, and you'll get a call right away from that client being like, hey, sorry, I didn't know it was you. So always call a caseworker first if there is one, or let Jocelyn or Lori know, because we can help you to iron out some of that as well. Information from your contact with that client or guardian is going to be logged in CarePaths under a client guardian contact log, just like it sounds. You're going to be saying, when did you contact them? Did you have success in scheduling? It's just a couple of little check boxes so we can kind of manage on the back administrative end what's going on with your contact with that client. Next thing is going to be, when applicable, contacting that referral source if it is the Department of Family Services. So the referral source information, as we mentioned, is on that PDF. It will also be on the top of CarePaths usually. So the kinds of things that you want to do in that initial contact with them is to provide them your contact information, let them know you're on the case or a part of the case, and let them know if you have scheduled or what's going on in terms of your interactions with that client. We usually do this through what's called the introduction email. So you're going to email that DFS caseworker within 24 hours to do a couple of things. You want to introduce yourself, give them your contact information, maybe gather any what I call unwritten information. Sometimes they are very willing to share information over the phone, but they are not very willing to share in a typed or official capacity. You should always be in this email CCing typically Lori or your direct supervisor so that we can stay in the loop on kind of what's going on with some of that communication. During that initial time, you can also ask for a copy of the case plan, court report, or the NIA, just so you can gather some extra information about maybe what's the impending dangers or what are the different things that they want to see the parent or the child do before they're reunified. You can also ask them for their cell phone or their mobile number. The desk number is usually the one that is on the referral form. So you want to go ahead, maybe be able to send them a text message at some point or find them when they aren't at their desk. And so that is something you can also ask them. Above all, we want consistent professional communication with all of our referral sources, whether it's DFS or otherwise. Here's some sample introduction email language, and you can kind of pause this if you want to steal some of this language. These are two examples that are roughly taken from what some of our other clinicians use, kind of introducing yourself, saying you work at Elements, maybe give an example of some of your mental health experience. This is also a way to get to know, or for a caseworker to get to know you. So maybe they'll say, oh, wow, you have this kind of experience. I want to refer this other case to you as well. You're asking for some sort of consultation or to get any additional information about that client, and then asking if they have any questions or if they want to schedule a time to talk to you. That's what you're doing with this email. And of course, CCing Lori, please, on that email. In the communication with your caseworker, again, professionalism, responding promptly. If you don't really hear from your caseworker that often, I like to do like monthly contact with them just to check in. We are trying to build a relationship. You are trying to build some rapport with the caseworker as well. And that's how our business has grown. And that's what makes us successful, is that we do have these strong relationships with our caseworkers. So if the caseworker does communicate with you and emails you to request like a copy of the assessment or the treatment plan or any other progress updates, you can just ask Jocelyn. She will be able to send a copy of the assessment and the treatment plan to the caseworker. Or a progress update is something that you're going to write. We do not traditionally send notes to anyone, so a progress update can literally just be a couple of sentences about treatment updates. Now, if this is an adult client, you want to make sure that there is a release of information on file if you have any communication with the caseworker after your adult client has signed the release. After they've signed the consent forms. So once they've signed the release, you want to see what they have consented to release. And we will go over that in a second. And ultimately, if it seems like they're asking for too much and you're like, whoa, this is a lot of work that they're asking me to do, just please speak to Lori and she will help you to kind of prioritize or see what's going on with that situation. On our Elements release of information, here are the things that are asked for a client to initial next to. It is sent electronically, and adult clients with DFS involvement will automatically receive a copy of this. So assessment, diagnosis, different psychological or psychosocial evaluations, treatment plans or treatment updates, testing, educational information, presence or participation in treatment, continuing care, progress in treatment. So what you want to be thinking is, what is the purpose of the release? So if just in general, the caseworker is going to want to know that they're going to therapy, then they would of course want to initial presence or participation in treatment. If they want to know any other information about progress or other current updates, they would need to initial these. If they want a treatment plan, please note that the diagnosis is automatically included on a treatment plan and on the assessment. So if they don't initial the diagnosis one, we cannot send the assessment or the treatment plan. So the client does have the right to initial only the ones that they want to be disclosed. And I think it is good for you to let the client know that and also confirm with them before something is sent, because that is their own personal health information. The release of information, like if you're talking to someone, how much could you say, can you say, should you say? So, as I mentioned, adults, once they sign those informed consents, they are a client of Elements. And if they were referred by their caseworker, it doesn't really matter. They still have a right to their own confidentiality. If that caseworker is requesting information, documentation, updates, anything, even to say, hey, have you heard from this person? We literally can't even say if we've heard from them if they've already signed the consents unless we have a release. So we always want to maintain the highest level of confidentiality for our clients that is allowed by the release of information. Alternatively, if you have a child and then they turn 18, you still need to maintain their confidentiality now as an adult, and they need to sign a release of information. So if you have a client who turns 18 during treatment, you can remind us or remind them that they do need to sign that form. Um, Also, if you have children who are living with their birth parents, in some cases, the caseworker will ask the parents to sign um, a release of information instead of the caseworker signing a release of information. In that case, would be like if you want to collaborate maybe with a doctor or an attorney or the school or something like that. So you typically never need a release of information for Department of Family Services as long as the children are still technically wards of the state. And if you have children who are in an out-of-home placement or a foster placement, because DFS has custody, we don't need a release for those minor clients, but we still want to be mindful of releasing only the information that is required of this interaction. So we want to do limited information during treatment updates. A collateral agreement is also something that comes up if you're especially in home therapy where you have maybe like there's a roommate or some sort of neighbor or some sort of person who lives with the family who is always seeming to want to participate somehow in therapy or assisting the identified client with maybe some sort of tasks in the home. They are not the focus of treatment, and they might not even be a part of the treatment unit, but they're always kind of around. When to use this form, it's available on our website. If they seem to kind of be joining the session and you want to establish like your roles or responsibilities or relationships with that client or that non-client, I should say. And lastly here, some other things that do come up is we are systemically focused. So let's say you're going into a home and you are there to see one of the minor children in the home and you observe there's other children in the home. So it might be biologically related or foster siblings, or maybe they're not even related at all. But you think that they could benefit from services as well, but they have not been referred for services. So if you want to involve them in treatment, if there's a caseworker, you can discuss that with the caseworker or their parent or their guardian, and then you can make or you can help them to make an official referral if they want services. And this is our website here that everyone can use to make a referral, elementslv/refer a client. And then the other situation would be how to involve parents that are not referred. So let's say you're going into a home and you see a minor client and a birth parent or a caregiver, this happens a lot, requests their own services. So sometimes maybe they don't even request their own services, but they're discussing something with you that is what you feel like are clinical levels of anxiety or depression or other concerns that you think could benefit from some sort of therapeutic interventions. So you can discuss those treatment options with that parent or guardian directly, see if they're interested in engaging in services, and they can or you can help them to make a referral on the website. If you are having that kind of situation arise, where someone is asking you to be their therapist, sometimes I've even been in a home where like a neighbor knows something and you have to just weigh, is there a conflict of interest or a dual relationship? And you can staff it, of course, with myself or Lori as necessary. But basically, if you want to take on another referral and you want to check their benefits, we are going to need their full name, their date of birth, and if they don't have Medicaid, we will want a picture of the front and back of their insurance card, and you can email that to Jocelyn and she will check their benefits. If you are seeing parents that they they want services and we don't take their insurance or they don't have insurance, we can still see them or involve them through family therapy. So our family therapy codes are 90847 and 90846. So as long as the children have coverage, then we can see the family, and the unit of treatment is the family. So our billing code's 90847 if the client is present, and 90846 if the client is not present. So I use these codes often for children who have been referred, especially children who are living with their adoptive placement, or maybe they have been adopted and their parents are really struggling in these parenting roles with children who have high needs. So this is a great way to support our clients, and this can be performed by a family therapist if you are not a family therapist. And lastly, for scheduling, the time, the day, the location, anything about scheduling is up to you to coordinate and determine with the client. If you're going to do it in their home or some other location, in our Elements offices, via teletherapy, it's just totally up to you. The referral sometimes will say what is the preferred setting for therapy, but of course, discuss that with your client. If you are scheduling a client to be in the office, please just contact Jocelyn to make sure that she or someone else is going to be there that will let you in, especially if you do not have a key. And also note that HP and Medicaid and some commercial insurances don't even cover in-home therapy, so that is a little bit limiting in terms of the settings for those clients. You should also be keeping track of your own schedule in whatever way suits you. So if you want to keep it on your phone or your tablet, on a computer calendar, if you're like the pen and paper style of calendar organization, whatever you want to do. You can also optional to use the scheduler that is in CarePaths, but you do not have to. I personally use my phone and I use the scheduler in CarePaths, but it is totally up to you. When you want a day off or you want a sick day, all you're doing is just coordinating that or rescheduling that, or maybe do teletherapy, for example, if you're out of town with your clients. As far as we are concerned, all we will say is either have fun on your vacation or we hope you feel better soon. So that is 100% up to you how you manage that.